Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Simon Gotzen with Simon Says, taking a break from Diablo 3 to bring you the first ever Everson Restored draft I did on Magic Online during the pre-release events. I returned from Barcelona last week, where I finished in the money, but a 5-5 constructed was just not enough to win anymore. But I did manage to draft 5-1. 2-1 losing in the finals, and then a 3-0 beating Brian Kibler in the finals of day 2, which was quite successful overall. I think the format is very interesting and very skill intensive. I want to spend a couple of minutes to talk about how I and my testing group went into this Pro Tour, how we did prepare for this new format. And this ties into the problem we face whenever a new set comes out. We have to prepare for a completely new or a changing format. And now that the small sets are drafted first, the impact of every new release is felt in real-life tournaments as well as on Magic Online. And I do believe that having a better preparation than others helps a lot in unknown limited formats. It's really hard to describe how much of an edge you can get. So let's see how we prepared for this Pro Tour and how I overall like to prepare for a new limited format. The first thing you have to do is draft. It's really easy, and I'm talking like 10 or more drafts to get a feeling of a format's cards, interactions, archetypes, and just the overall tempo of the format. So this is what we did. We spent a weekend drafting Everson Restored, and from there you can say a lot about the card quality. So what you can usually start off with is common pick orders, and what we also did is to talk about the best uncommons in their respective colors. But I want to talk about the commons first, and there, I think, just from looking at the spoiler, it's probably clear what the best commons in each color are. I think they aren't very hard to spot. I don't want to tell you anything you don't know yet, but there is Seraph of Dawn in white, Mistraven in blue, Deathwind in black, red has Pillar of Flame, and green has the Force Mage that gives a Soulbound creature +1/+1. And I think these creatures and the 2 removal spells are simply the best commons in their colors, and there isn't really much to pick over them, at least in my current state of mind. So the best uncommons in each color are a bit more tricky. I don't want to go into the details, but this is really about ranking them, comparing them to the commons also, so that you know which uncommons are better than the top commons in each color. So once you have this figured out, you get a feel for the overall aggressiveness of the tempo of the format. And what we realized very early on is that Everson Restored is a fast limited format. Curve and board presence are absolutely crucial, and you get beaten down by lots of creatures, and they aren't particularly impressive. They are like just regular 2/1s and 2/2s, but the red ones, especially the red-white decks, there are a lot of offensive triggers. Then blue has all these tempo components which just blow you out. Peel from Reality, Mistraven, Into the Void, bounce to 2 target creatures, and Soulbound is also a very aggressive mechanic because it has an immediate impact on the board, and if you don't have the creatures, if you don't have the board presence to answer these creatures, you are falling behind too quickly. Now, from what I've said, I've now talked about the mechanics in blue, red, and white, and well, there's also Soulbound in green. You can easily see that black has a really a unique feel in this format. So the status and the way how black works in this format, it was one of the big questions we had in our testing, and sadly we didn't really figure it out. There are good decks with Demonic Taskmaster. Homicidal Seclusion is an important card. There's good removal spells, and you can have quite a lot of morbid synergies just from sacrificing your creatures and them going back into play with Undying. But it's really difficult to say how the perfect black deck would look like. Is it mono black? Does it splash other colors? Do you just play black because of the removal spells, or can you really draft the loner deck? Is there a loner deck? And when I went to Barcelona, I told myself I feel comfortable drafting blue, red, and green, and I know that white is okay, but I don't feel comfortable drafting black. So I basically said I want to draft a deck that's blue-red, blue-green, or red-green, and if necessary, I will dip into white, but if at all possible, I don't want to pick any black cards. Now, this is not something I would tell you to do when starting your drafts on Magic Online, trying to learn the format. But on the Pro Tour, I wanted to really draft the decks I was most comfortable with, and it worked out. I drafted a blue-red aggressive deck in the first draft, and then a red-green Soulbond deck in the second draft, and I was very happy with how the decks worked out and how the drafts went. I lost in the finals of the first draft, but I think I probably made a small mistake there, which cost me the game, losing to a Fervent Cathar and some other cards that my opponent all had to have, but I probably could have foreseen something like that happening. So there's a lot of potential to lose games, but there's also a lot of ways to win games if you know what you're doing. So this is kind of how our process went, and I think I'm going to spend the next episodes talking about the overall concepts that led us to the things that we figured out. For example, the fact that the aggressive decks play a lot of 2/1s means that almost all 1/1 creatures are playable, which is different from other formats. But I'm also going to talk about how control decks should look like, or how I think that a black deck has to be built to be successful. It's really easy to draft black and go 0-3 or just lose in the first round of a draft over and over again if you just think that black works as any other color in another limited format, which is not the case. So there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to talk about. It's an exciting new format, and this intro is already long enough. Just one more thing. I'm going to show you a pre-release draft, which means it's a Swiss draft. So you're getting all 3 rounds. The opponents might not be on the same level as in an 8-4 draft, but you're getting your content as early as possible. And I hope you enjoy the show. Bye bye.